What really happened between Taeil and Jungkook? The shocking scandal that occurred at a friend's house made the army silent. But the most unbelievable? Jungkook's reaction in front of the camera. Not a cry, not a defense, but something completely unexpected. Is this the end of everything or just the beginning of a hidden betrayal? The Taeil scandal just leaked, but what Jungkook did on camera shocked everyone. Who could have imagined that a simple moment at a best friend's residence would set off the most confusing storm of scandal to ever hit the K-pop world? Who would have thought that Taeil, who has always been known as one of the most calm, warm, and mysterious figures of BTS, would be the center of the emotional outburst that shook ARMY to the root? But what's more unimaginable isn't just what Taeil did. It's not just the location and the time. Rather, the response of someone who had been closest to him, Jungkook. And when the cameras started capturing Jungkook's first reaction after the news of Taeil's scandal broke, the world seemed to stop spinning for a moment.
No tears, no hugs.
No defense. What appeared was precisely an expression that confused everyone. Bitter smile? Disappointment? Or a form of tacit recognition of something that has been hidden for a long time. It started with a seemingly ordinary afternoon. Taeil's best friend's residence, which has been rarely highlighted by the media, suddenly becomes the location of an unexpected crowd. Some hidden cameras catch suspicious movements. Not paparazzi, not mainstream media, but footage from the home security system itself. Leaking? Accidentally scattered? Or deliberately leaked by someone who knows more than they should. In the footage, Taeil is seen entering the house with a face full of pressure. But what left many at a loss for words was not only the atmosphere inside the house, but who appeared behind the door a few minutes later. An unexpected figure not from the entertainment world, but from Taeil's own past. A person whose whereabouts have been kept secret, but in the footage, he appears, hugs Taeil, and says something that the audio captures very vaguely, but clearly enough to make anyone watching him shudder. You've finally come, after all you've hidden from Jungkook. What does that sentence mean? What is Jungkook hiding? And why didn't Taeil argue, didn't move away, didn't refuse? It was almost as if the meeting had been awaited. The army was split. Most refuse to believe that it is a form of betrayal. They insist that the tape is just an incomplete piece of a larger truth. But others began to question all the narratives they had believed. Is Taeil and Jungkook's closeness an illusion? Is there any truth deliberately hidden behind those sweet smiles during fan meeting and live broadcasts? And when Jungkook was asked to give a statement, ARMY's greatest hope was to see him stand up for his best friend. But that's not what happened. In a short interview broadcast live, Jungkook simply stared into the camera. Silence for a few seconds. Then say, sometimes you feel like you know someone, but you only know the part they want to show you. Then he laughed a little. Not a happy laugh, but some kind of hopelessness wrapped in irony. The comment caused the army to panic. Some cried. Some are angry. Some even considered Jungkook too harsh. But many also began to read something from his words, phrases of wounds that had been hidden for too long, and this is the moment when everything becomes blurred. Did Jungkook know something that the public didn't know all along? Is he conveying an implicit message to Taeil or to the person who appears in the tape? Clearly, one clue after another began to appear. Taeil disappeared from social media for nearly 48 hours after the footage was leaked. No posts, no stories, no updates. HYBE was silent, and all official accounts only uploaded content that seemed pre-scheduled. No clarification, no apology, no confirmation of anything. Meanwhile, Jungkook appears more often. But not with sadness, but rather with a completely new energy. Even while performing in a live broadcast shortly after the interview, he played a song that implied a lot of questions. I trusted you when I shouldn't have. I saw the stars in your lies. Is that song for Taeil? Or for himself? The most surprising thing happened 3 days later. An amateur video shows Jungkook having a serious conversation with Jin at a small diner. Jin, who has always been a big brother figure for BTS members, was seen giving a hand gesture that showed rejection. But Jungkook shook his head, looking emotional. And the phrase that caught Salmar was, if he had been honest from the beginning, maybe things wouldn't be like this. And suddenly, like a scattered puzzle, everything began to connect slowly. What is Taeil hiding? Why did he find someone from his past? Did the relationship affect his friendship with Jungkook? And is this the reason why Jungkook looks so disappointed instead of angry? But the biggest unanswered question to date is this the beginning of a bigger split? Or is it just the beginning of the truth that has been deliberately obscured? Because some army with a keen eye found that the footage showed only the initial part of the interaction. No part after. There was no end to that conversation. So, is it possible that the tape was intentionally cut? Manipulated? Or only half the story? Even more suspicious. 2 days after the video went viral, the owner of the house where the incident took place suddenly closed all his social media accounts. He also deleted all posts related to BTS or Taeil. A move that actually reinforces public suspicion that there is indeed something bigger that is being hidden, and the army began to develop theories. Some say that the person in the video is the ex of someone who was once close to Taeil, not romantically but emotionally, someone who knows his deepest secrets. People who may know the dark sides of the pressure of being an idol for years. Others argue that this is just part of the purge narrative before Taeil's soon-to-come massive solo comeback. But if that's true, why isn't Jungkook involved? Why does it look so far away? Or maybe he was deliberately kept away, All these theories spin without a definitive answer. But one thing is undeniable. This scandal has changed the way people view the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook. What once seemed like a solid friendship is now beginning to be fractured by doubt. And as the day goes on, more and more new details are revealed. But they all still leave one common feeling: uncertainty. Will they go back to the way they were? Or is that moment at the best friend's house a turning point that can no longer be erased? Jungkook has yet to issue a new statement. Taehyung has not yet returned to the public. But the world continues to wonder and await, because when the two biggest stars of this generation get caught up in a mystery that not even their own agencies can explain, the only thing we can do is wait and hope that when all the truth is finally revealed, it will not destroy more than it has already broken. But if it turns out, Jungkook's reaction so far has not been one of betrayal, but one of relief that the truth has finally come to light. Have we all misjudged? Or is it a scenario that has long been devised by someone we don't know, someone who knows that one little lie can bring everything down? He's not an idol, not a celebrity, not even a name that has ever been mentioned by the media or the army before. But as soon as his face was seen in the CCTV footage of Taehyung's best friend's house, millions of pairs of eyes instantly froze. No one knew him personally, but Taehyung's expression when he saw him, and the words that came out of his mouth, were enough to make the K-pop world tremble. Who exactly is the figure of the man? Some anonymous sources say that the man is an old friend of Taehyung during the trainee. Someone who was once close, but mysteriously disappeared from public life before BTS officially debuted. There are also those who speculate further that the man is one of the few people who know the deepest secrets about the internal conflicts that once occurred in the early days of BTS, especially between members who almost quit before debuting and those who stayed. Did Taehyung one of them? Did Jungkook know all that a long time ago but pretended not to know for the sake of maintaining the harmony of the group? Or is this the secret that everyone has been hiding? For sure, the appearance of the man was not accidental. She didn't look nervous, didn't hesitate, and didn't try to hide her face from the cameras. He spoke like someone who had been waiting for this moment to happen, as if he knew that his arrival would change everything. You're the same as you were, Tae. Keep everything to yourself, as if you can protect everyone. But you forget, you can't save them all at once. That phrase is piercing. Who is meant? Jungkook? Another member? Taehyung himself. The tape ends without a hug, without a fight, but with a silence deadlier than any scream. Taehyung just stared at the man's figure. His eyes reddened, and for the first time in a very long time, his expression could not be read. Not sad, not angry, just empty. And when the video went viral, the reactions of netizens were divided like water split by a stone. Some urged HYBE to immediately provide clarification, but others feel that it just proves that the agency has been hiding something bigger. Another member's reaction: silence is noisier than shouting while the world burned theories and suspicions. The other BTS members chose to remain silent. RM doesn't write anything on Weverse, though he's usually the first to give a wise perspective. Jimin, who has always been known to be very close to Taehyung, uploaded a photo of the sunset with a strange caption: "Sometimes the warmest rays can burn the deepest." Is this satire? Or an expression of unspeakable disappointment? Jin, who was previously seen talking to Jungkook at the restaurant, had no additional comment. But a waiter who saw them directly said that the atmosphere at that time was very tense. Jungkook looked angry, not because he was being yelled at, but like he felt betrayed. And Suga? The only thing he did was delete one of the old posts related to Taehyung. No excuses, no explanations. But ARMY instantly picked up on the signal that this was more than just an aesthetic decision, but perhaps the most surprising was J-Hope's move. He posted an excerpt of an ancient Korean poem. If one leaf falls because of the season, it's not the wind's fault. But if the whole tree sheds, there may be a storm that is denied. One sentence, thousands of interpretations. What do they know, but cannot say? Are they all heard? Or have they known for a long time and waited for the right moment for everything to unfold? Hidden clues that were missed all this time after the footage was leaked. A lot of ARMY started looking back at old BTS content, live broadcasts, vlogs, behind-the-scenes videos, even old interviews. And they began to find patterns. A strange look from Jungkook as Taehyung talks about an old friend who will never come back. The smile that disappeared from Jimin's face when Taehyung mentioned someone from his trainee days. Even the moment when RM spontaneously said, "There are things we will never say, not because we don't want to, but because we shouldn't." And now, that question resonates again. What exactly happened in BTS's past that made all of this so sensitive? Does the arrival of the man in the tape open the doors of a long-locked past? And does Jungkook, who looks the calmest, actually harbor the deepest disappointment? HYBE press conference. Clarification or blurring of facts. 3 days after netizen pressure reached its peak, HYBE finally held a press conference. But instead of answering, they just muddled the atmosphere. The official statement reads only, "We are aware of a private recording that was spread out of context. We're conducting an investigation. We implore all parties not to disseminate unconfirmed information." There is no mention of Taehyung's name. No mention of Jungkook. There was no explanation as to who the man was. There was not even an affirmation of whether the footage was genuine or had been manipulated. And in a world hungry for truth, silence is the most painful form of confession. But is Jungkook really hurt or just angry? One video from a fan site shows something shaking deeper. Jungkook is caught on camera walking quickly through the airport, and someone shouts Taehyung's name from a distance. Jungkook stopped. Turn around for a second. Then continue with your head slightly bowed, a small gesture, but meaningful. Did I ask that a form of doubt? Miss? Or a feeling he can't even fathom on his own? Some fans began to speculate that Jungkook's reaction during this time was not just a form of anger, but fear. Afraid that something he had believed so much about all this time turned out to be just an illusion. That the person he was protecting with all his heart was harboring something he couldn't accept. And if that's true, the question gets darker. If the person you trust most turns out to be hiding something, can you really forgive him? Or are you secretly waiting for them to open everything themselves? Is all this just a test? Or is this really a sign that the bromance story between Taehyung and Jungkook, who for years served as the foundation of BTS, warmth in ARMY's eyes, has reached the end of the road? Since the tape scandal broke, none of them have spoken directly about the situation. There was no explanation from Taehyung. There was no immediate statement from Jungkook. But their silence is louder than screams. And that's what torments the ARMY the most. Uncertainty. Then, something happened in a closed schedule that was never made public. BTS shot a limited number of shots for a global brand campaign. Some of the staff present leaked the tense atmosphere at the location. Taehyung and Jungkook attend, but don't speak a single word to each other. Even when the group photo session took place, they were deliberately positioned far apart. But the most heartbreaking moments occurred in between shoots, when the members were given a break. Jin, who seems to be trying to put things together, approaches Taehyung and tries to have a casual conversation with him. A few seconds later, Jungkook passed near them and stopped for a moment. The whole room held its breath. Their gazes met a moment. Then Jungkook walked away without a word. And that was the moment that made everyone who saw it know something had changed. Something that cannot be fixed with just a hug or a tear in front of the camera. That silence is no longer about holding back anger, but about the limits that have been exceeded. A sign of the end? Or just need time? After the moment was spread through rumors and internal staff whispers, the ARMY began to speculate more deeply. Some fans are trying to convince themselves that this is just a phase. That even two very close friends can get into conflict and move away for a while. But others can't help but fear. What if this is the beginning of a real breakup? Especially when Jungkook unexpectedly deleted his Instagram highlights containing sweet memories with Taehyung. One of the previously most touching videos, in which they sang together laughing in the rehearsal room, simply disappeared without a trace. No announcement. No reason, but for the observant ARMY, it's no coincidence that's a message, and shortly after, Taehyung also made a surprising move. He changed his social media bio to a short sentence. Some are lost, but not all are lost to be found again. What does that phrase mean? Is he teasing someone? Say goodbye without direct words? Or just trying to calm himself down in a storm that hit so suddenly? Signals that divide the heart of the AR. Their every move is now a puzzle. Taehyung, who was previously known to be rarely active on social media, suddenly started posting photos of silence, overcast skies, deserted streets, and portraits of himself staring out of a window. His captions are always ambiguous, poetic, but implies a deep sense of loss and longing. Meanwhile, Jungkook began to show a different side. During one of the live broadcasts, he looked more excited than usual, playing upbeat songs and talking at length about letting go of things that can't be controlled. But there is one moment that cannot be ignored. In the middle of the broadcast, an ARMY member asked via live chat, "Are you and Taehyung still close?" Jungkook was silent, staring at the screen. He said, "There are things that cannot be explained, but that does not mean that it is not felt." And in that one sentence, millions of hearts broke. Because everyone knows, it's not a diplomatic answer. It is the deepest form of honesty, without having to name names, without having to express taste. One mysterious message, and a clue that was accidentally uncovered. But this story is not over. In fact, it just started. During one of the limited fan call sessions, an ARMY man cleverly asked Taehyung, "What do you regret the most this year?" Taehyung's previously smiling face instantly changed. He bit his lip, lowered his head, and said, "I wish I had been braver from the beginning." What does that mean? Is he revealing that all this could have been prevented if he had been more honest first? If it doesn't hide something big from the people who trust it most? Several theories began to emerge. Some believe that the leaked CCTV footage is not the only footage. There is a second part, which until now has not appeared to the public. The part that could explain why the man in the tape mentioned Jungkook directly. A part that may show a side of Taehyung that no one has ever seen. And supposedly, HYBE insiders are now under tremendous pressure because someone from within the security staff is suspected of being the party who leaked the recording. Not because of money, but because it feels the truth must be told. If that is true, then the question is, what exactly is the truth that is covered up? Is this about Taehyung's past relationship? Or about feelings that can never be expressed, even to Jungkook? Is this the end of Taekook as we know him? After all this, after the leaked footage, Jungkook's cold response, Taehyung's wounded gesture, and HYBE's increasingly suspicious silence, ARMY starts asking one painful question. Is Taekook's bromance really over? Or is it that The relationship was never what we imagined. Are we, as spectators of the screen, too much filling the gap with imagination, too forcing two hearts to always go in rhythm when they are human beings who can be hurt, disappointed, and lost, because in a world where every expression is read as a signal, and every silence is twisted into drama, perhaps the ones who suffer the most are not those who are accused, but those who can never tell the real truth. And if at the end of the day, it's all about two people who love each other as best friends, but are trapped in expectations they can't meet, do we have a right to be angry? Or should we just shut up and wait for them to talk their own way? Because one thing is certain, whatever really happened that night at Taeyoung's best friend's house, whatever Jungkook chooses to show in front of the camera, and anything that has not been said in public, this story is not finished. It could even be